Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Quite the first day of games here in Toronto. The venue was absolutely banging today for a Thursday, which was sensational to see, but the usual suspects coming out on top. Some interesting storylines though emerging from the day, certainly in terms of what these matches are going to look like in the second rounds and who is going to bomb out of the tournament very early on tomorrow. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Here are the boys at the absolute sensational setup that the Toronto boys have put on for us today. So yeah, just awesome to see. It's the best seat in the house as far as I'm concerned. We're up there. Feel free to come by, say hello. I'm going to be walking around the venue more tomorrow. We've got some pro player guests coming on. We're getting everything sorted out. The pre-show as well tomorrow is going to be slightly earlier than normal. So if you're guys looking for something to do 2 hours, hour and a half before the matches, stop by to the Breaking Point YouTube channel and we are going to be there having an absolutely fantastic time before the matches get underway. There was also some content that I did with Gersh the other day and I don't know, this caught some traction, so I thought I'd just mention it. But we did have this noted today as well that, you know, RealCrim7 and others were spotting during the fact that they were testing things out in the morning some sort of graphical preparation, and I've often done this for other teams, but I don't know how many teams they prepare these type of graphics for. Maybe they prepare them for all 12, but let's be real, you know, maybe they just press a button and it just does it automatically, but maybe they have to prepare some actual graphics. I thought it was worth mentioning as well, look at the stage setup here. This in the foreground on the right hand side is actually another couple of monitors, not really monitors, they're massive TVs, they put them around the venue that makes it easier for fans further back to actually see what's going on, which is sensational. It reminds me of a CWL style vibe really, because the banners up here, it doesn't look like the standard stock CDL stage. This has gone next level. You know, they bring the banners into play. And sure, maybe it's not crazy, but it's a level up on where it was before, and it gives me CWL vibes. And I honestly do hope that we have events here in Toronto for years to come, because they're always an absolutely fantastic time. It was 3 years ago today, by the way, that FaZe won the Stage 3 Major. This was the last Major, was it, before we went back on LAN? I think that might have been the case anyway, but FaZe won this one, of course. How times have changed since then. Well, some things have changed, some things haven't really changed. Of course, that was the team, the Subliners, with Mac, aBeZy, HyDra, and Clay, that went down 5-2 in the grand finals to the team with Nastie, who, of course, was player of the stage back then. But nowadays, rather different story, right? Simp, aBeZy, and Cell stay. Drazah is now there, and well, they played today. Speaking of HyDra though, and the Subliners, they're still on that roster together, and they played Los Angeles Thieves today. This I was hoping it was going to be a map 5 banger, and honestly it could well have been. But you know, I talked to ReeaL earlier in the day. He was saying, yeah, their practice was going really well this weekend. But this Thieves roster, man, Dan Ghosty, what a player this guy is, and they rely on him so much, this Los Angeles Thieves team, right? This game one, I mean, we were mind-blown as this was going on in person, because yeah, Thieves, they brought a big comeback here in the game one. Again, I mean, what is it with Subliners and throwing leads? If this continues, there is just like no way that they are going to win this event, but they still have what it takes within them. And I think honestly you saw kind of watching this series just a bit of the skill diff that still exists even between 4th and 5th, and maybe you might argue Thieves aren't 5th, but you know, looking at the on paper situation, and sure, Thieves haven't won a LAN series so far this season, so that's another question in and of itself, but this was Seed 4 versus Seed 5. But as the series went on, times did somewhat change. But Ghosty made a monster play and dominated the end of that game one to win it. Another big throw by the Subliners, it's got to be said. But they didn't lose their heads. They bounced back in the search and destroys. This was a 2v4 that really Thieves should not have thrown away. They did, and that basically closed out the game too. So okay, a tied series, not the end of the world. But then was the HyDra show. And this is why this guy is so good. I don't need to say it again, but he ends up going on a 14 kill streak here on this controller and basically single-handedly taking over the game. It was 1-1, and then HyDra just turns up and delivers. There's not many players in the league that have this kind of prowess. It's going to be very interesting what happens in this offseason, right? Because HyDra may be or may not be a free agent. We're not exactly sure on the status over there, but depending on his circumstances, there will be other teams interested, right? And yeah, I mean, what a player. There's an argument that he might improve like every other team in the league if they put him in the right position, but yeah, certainly the player that New York Subliners do not want to let go. So he dominated that control, ended with a 14 kill streak, 24 and 4, 20 non-traded kills, and they close out the final game as well in pretty emphatic fashion. Okay, this is some CDL Major Central here, kind of, you know, talking about Cramp, who didn't have the greatest series, but I think, you know, scoreboards like this kind of show that still this Thieves team, certainly on LAN, they do leave something to be desired on the scoreboard side of things. I mean, yeah, Nastie, especially JoeDeceives, had a really rough series. I know that was, he actually had better numbers than Kremp overall, but there were a few maps where I was like, you know what, what's Joe doing here? And Kremp had 12,000 damage. So it does seem to me that on LAN especially, this Thieves team, even with Ghosty playing very well, I think Nastie's done well as well. I mean, look, he had 15,000 damage, most on his team. HyDra had nearly 18,000 with 100 kills. So, and that's only in 4 maps. So, you know, absolutely emphatic stuff there from Paco. But still, this JoeDeceives Kremp SMG duo, online, sure, but on LAN, I'm just not convinced they're quite going to be able to get the job done still. So they'll go down to losers. They will play Boston tomorrow. The next series was, I thought, going to be a rapid-fire smoke show, which it kind of was, but credit where it's deserved to Miami here, because they did actually win the search and destroy, and I feel like that will give some confidence to the rest of the league, really, that FaZe are somewhat beatable, but yeah, the body shots were coming in. aBeZy, by the way, I said before this tournament, actually, in terms of MVP votes, and I said, oh, you know, difficult to look past Simp. But after I said that when I was editing that video, I thought, you know what, aBeZy might actually be my pick here, just because aBeZy's been frying online recently, and it feels like about time that aBeZy has like a real takeover event. But FaZe, on the 6th star, they go down. Heretics take them very comfortably indeed. Vikul makes a nice flank here. Eventually, they close out the game, and Miami win their first map on LAN. So I think it was coming. Look, they're a better team. I know people really bought into this storyline that they were going to go, you know, 0-15, 0-18 or whatever, and I didn't really see that being true, but to be fair, I thought they probably would get 3-0 here, but I thought certainly against Vegas, they'll win at least a map, and they've won a map here, so I think, honestly, you know, I'm going to take them to beat Vegas tomorrow, I think, in a 3-2. I don't know if that's going to come back to bite me, but I think this team is a bit better now than they previously were. The issue is that having won that one map, Miami decided, all right, I'm done for the day, and they got smoked in the control, and they got absolutely annihilated on the ReeaL hardpoint. Again, teams that play FaZe on this map, I think, are asking for trouble. The FaZe guys have said it. They're like, you're going to play us on ReeaL? Are you sure about that, Sunshine? And teams still do it, and they keep getting slammed. So they get slammed into the 80-point club here, and this is another FaZe on ReeaL masterclass, and their hardpoint has been looking just so scary. Like, typically with FaZe, we think, yeah, they're great at hardpoint, they're very good at control, and they're pretty deadly in search and destroy. At the moment, it's like, how do you even beat them in hardpoint? That is the challenge. And there were some interesting tweets, shall we say, after the game that Gersh was cooking up here. I'm not going to comment more on this. If you know, you know, and I'm sorry if you know, is all I'll say on that. Simp, by the way, 82-31 on LAN in his career, which is pretty ridiculous, over 6 COD titles. And also, by the way, I think this is now true for the Toronto Ultra. They are now 8-0 in their winners bracket games in winners round 1 with Scrappy on the team. So in winners round 1, they're 8-0 with Scrappy, and they were 8-6, I think, before they brought Scrappy in. FaZe are on a 10 streak in winning their winners round 1 games, which stretches back quite some time. Here was the red carpet, by the way, rolled out as well for the guys on Miami. A rough showing for sure. Cell with a 1.46, aBeZy with a 1.6. I mean, look, they won a map here, Miami, but apart from that, they did pretty much get slammed, and that final ReeaL was absolutely brutal. This is when, though, that home crowd came into play for the Toronto game, and I've got to say, for day 1 of this tournament, I was massively, like, impressed by how vibey the venue was. Like, typically, Saturday, Sunday are going to be the big days, and they will be unbelievable, this tournament. For a Thursday, it was busy in there. For this series, for the OpTic series, like, it was wild. The crowd were loud. You can hear it on our headphones watching the show from the suite that we've got, which is sensational. And it was busy in there today, man. Like, honestly, one of the best Thursdays that I really remember at an event. And Toronto played, and Toronto delivered in front of the home crowd. This Surge team, like, I talked about it on the show. We talked about it before. They just, you know, on LAN, I just have my questions here. Online, they've improved, I think, definitely since bringing 04 in. But it is the question on Hook sometimes, right? It's got to be said, a player that has been known to be better online than on LAN. We saw with OpTic last year, you know, of course, that was certainly the case with Hook. Online, he was frying, and then on LAN, wasn't quite the same story. Even at this event last year, that was a storyline because they dominated the online qualifiers. They came into the major and got top 12. So, you know, Hook now on this Surge team had a pretty rough series today. Envoy, by the way, was making plays. Scrappy was getting the crowd fired up, and you know, this is impressive from Scrappy. Dominated this game to search and destroy. They won it 14-5. To be fair to Hook, though, this was a massive moment here in this control when he got a 2-piece, which I don't really know how they didn't kill him, to be honest. But anyway, he went big. They won the first round here as well, Seattle, and honestly, they closed it out pretty emphatically from there. So that was a quick GG. Surge take the dub. Toronto Ultra go down, and then it goes to a game 4. where Scrap starts shooting bodies. This again was kind of interesting, but when it mattered, Toronto pulled away and won it in 4. Surge just not quite good enough, and they will drop down to the losers bracket to play the Minnesota Rocker, which is, you know, to me that's got a Game 5 written all over it. So yeah, Toronto say, what's Surge's record against us this year? And here he is, Mr. 0-4, of course, on that Seattle Surge team. So very entertaining stuff, and this was the numbers for the series. So again, the favourites are taking the victories. The Subliners Thieves one was the question, but of course Subliners ended up handling business. FaZe are always going to win. Sure, they lost a map, as did Toronto Ultra, but both of these teams looked good. Honestly, Envoy fried in both hardpoints. Map 4 especially, he was double positive, dropped 39 kills, nearly broke, you know, the 40 that had been set earlier on in the day by aBeZy in that map 1 against Miami Heretics, but he didn't quite, he dropped 39, and I thought, you know what, probably Envoy MVP, but I looked at the scoreboard, and Scrappy didn't dominate 2 maps of the series, as Envoy did. He dominated basically all 4, and ended with a 1.5 with 100 kills and 18,500 damage. So, yeah, fair play to aBeZy, trying to keep up. aBeZy, Hook, both had really rough times, and, you know, 0-4 didn't have a great series either. So my questions, my suspicions on this Surge team may be confirmed, but we'll see tomorrow if they can bounce back. And the final game of the day, then OpTic Texas versus Carolina Royal Ravens, and this was the point. Is there going to be an upset today? And if it is going to happen, it had to be in this series, because the other 3 went the other way, and I think there was a chance in this one. Ravens impressed me in part. They played some interesting map sets, I'm not going to lie. When this series began and I saw the maps, I thought, hang on a second, Ravens are really challenged OpTic on this? Are we kind of serious right now? And maybe Ravens had their thoughts on why they did so. And to be honest, it could have potentially worked out. It didn't, however. Clay, by the way, was looking for his first win against OpTic on LAN since Champs 2021. That was because they haven't played since Champs 2021, which is kind of wild, at least, of course, in a LAN environment. OpTic, though, game 1... I can't say I was massively surprised with the way this one concluded. I felt in both hardpoint maps here, the sure OpTic might have started slow, it was relatively competitive, but the good teams, they always pull away in the final rotation, and that's what we saw here. Pred turned this around. We know that this is his map, right? This sub-base hardpoints. OpTic loved this map. Pred loves this map, but he started this game 4-9, 4-10, but he finished it +5, and OpTic just turned on the heat in the second rotation. They're now 7-0 on sub-base hardpoint this season. The Search and Destroy was very strange though, right? Because OpTic won this, plenty of 1v1s that, you know, OpTic got to enjoy and win, of course, in this case. Dashy versus Priestahh, an old school rivalry now from a couple of years ago. Dashy gets the gunfight win onto Priestahh here to close it out to 3-1. Nice shots from him, of course. Obviously, Canadian player, home event for him, and it hasn't really been, you know, Dashy's best event for the last couple of years. So maybe that's going to change this time. But OpTic moved to 3-1. But it was weird. The rounds that Ravens won, they won emphatically. But the rounds they lost were stuff like this. And Shotzzy finds himself in this position where he's watching the bomb, and, you know, good luck in this type of scenario, right? But it was a weird one because Ravens got first blood basically every single round. They had first blood in 9 of the 10 rounds, or like whatever it was, like 1 out of 9 rounds, OpTic got first blood. 8 out of 9, Ravens got first blood, and yet still OpTic won the rounds, majority of the time. So good sign for OpTic that they were able to close out the 3v4s, but really this was Ravens making a mistake, because when you got first blood, you should win those rounds a very high percentage of the time. That was not the case today at all with these guys, and yeah, I'm sure they will think exactly why. They go down there, they go down 2-0, and I thought at this point it was probably going to be chalked, to be honest. But they then played a Karachi control, and it was like Karachi control against OpTic. Now, I know Ravens are good at this, but I still thought against OpTic, that's a scary map to run into and play, but apparently not. Ravens take them on it, they win it. Clay stands up talking to the crowd. They won their offense where they needed to on round 2. They closed out the required rounds. They actually end up winning the offense here as well to close this thing out in 4, and that's GG. OpTic go down. They will think exactly how and why, because, you know, I feel like maybe FaZe will feel like in a situation like this, they'll close it out 3-0, but I think Ravens are kind of nice. They win the game 3, but in the end, it doesn't massively matter because they go to a ReeaL hardpoint on the final map of the series, where again, it was a similar story. Ravens had a nice early lead, and Clay was not happy about letting this one slip, and understandably so, to be fair. But in the final set of rotations, although Kenny didn't have a great final map on the pure numbers side, it was Shotzzy really that took over here, right? I still think Kenny in the comms is great. Dashy again with an interesting series, no more damage than Kenny, but far fewer fewer kills. Interesting to see his progress this weekend, really, Dashy, because, as I've said, he hasn't had the best events here in the past. Obviously, the splashy event was Vanguard. Last year, they were top 12. So we'll see if that progresses. Ravens, I think, looks kind of okay, but OpTic got the job done. 3-1s across the board today for the favourite teams, and that sets up the winners' semi-finals that we expected. So lots to discuss tomorrow. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.